Get ready for a no BS approach to health and fitness. This is NBS Fitness Radio.
All right, what's up? Welcome back to NBS Fitness Radio. I am here with the one and only Madre, a.k.a. Jennie Allen, a.k.a. my mom. So welcome to the NBS Fitness Radio.
Happy to be here. I'm glad you invited me to join you in this little soiree that we're going to do.
Absolutely. I'd like to kind of get a background. I'll give it a brief introduction, and then I want to talk a little bit more about your history. So I remember probably about 13 years ago, you were having some shoulder pain, and I said, you should come train with me, Mom. I had just started doing personal training at that point. And I said, you should come work out with me. I believe I can kind of fix your shoulder pain because I said, I think it's a strength issue. And you said, I'm pretty strong. I'm the strongest lady at I use the heaviest weights at jazzercise. And I said, well, how heavy are they? You're like 7s or 10s or something like that. I said,
sevens.
Oh, sevens. Yeah, 7s. And I was like, okay, well, I think we can make you a little bit stronger than that. And then pretty much ever since then, you've been training, with me or at NBS Fitness, and have been definitely the most consistent person I've ever had, and we've as a company has ever had. But I'd like to kind of go back to like your childhood, and just kind of talk about fitness and activity in your life from the very beginning. So what was that like for you growing up?
As a child, I never played team sports or anything like that. It really wasn't part of my growing up. I was in a small town. There weren't many team sports, and as I recall, it wasn't something girls did very much.
Right.
So I didn't really do that. I rode horses and those kinds of things, played outdoors all the time, but it was not focused. It was just playing.
Right, just activity and play.
Yeah, it was not anything like that. In high school, I got kind of interested in diving, springboard diving.
Okay. And
gymnastics. And I took a couple of short courses at UT Knoxville while I was in high school. It was like the non-class courses.
Gotcha.
So my mom took me up there, and I did those. I liked them. They were really, really hard. Especially gymnastics was really hard, and I was probably 15, so way too old for that.
Did they have PE? Do you recall doing PE in middle school and high school?
Not in middle school because we did not have a gymnasium.
Okay.
We went outside and played.
Like recess.
Just played.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't anything. In high school, we had to have PE. I remember having to play softball. I didn't like that. I couldn't hit it.
Okay,
It just didn't mean anything to me at all. I like dance.
Yeah.
We had to do dance. I remember that was about the same time I was taking diving.
Okay.
So I remember having to do push-ups and things like that. But it was really, it may have been like exercising, like jumping jacks, that kind of thing.
Calisthenics.
Exactly. But
was it in your entire high school? Or was it like, because right now it's just one semester out of 4 years of high school is the only requirement. Do you remember if it was that or more than that?
It seems like it was every year, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't swear to that.
Okay.
Because it seems like as seniors, we probably didn't have to do it. Seems like we did driver's ed instead of it.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
That's been a few years ago, so I don't really remember.
Yeah, it's just a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then you kind of were introduced to like diving, gymnastics. What happened once you left high school and went to college?
I went to college. When I went to LSU, I started working toward maybe trying out for diving. Didn't end up doing that. I knew I was not going to make that. It just wasn't good enough. You had to have, it's like in gymnastics, you have to have many, many years experience to get into that. And so I worked out with them for a while and then passed on that. Then I did what everybody else does in college, which was mainly drink and party.
Right. And that's what LSU is good for.
Yes, and that's why I came back to UT after my first year at LSU was because I drank and partied. I didn't fail, but I needed a reboot.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
I came back to UT. Then at UT, I drank and partied for the most part. I remember playing.
Studied a little more.
I passed. I don't think I ever made the dean's list, but I didn't fail. I think the only thing we ever did much of was play racquetball,
Okay.
handball, paddleball, that kind of thing.
Just like as friends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just buddies out on the rec courts.
Okay.
But I don't remember doing anything other than that.
Okay.
And then, when you graduate college and you go to work, you don't do anything.
Yeah, you just spend all day
Yeah.
working.
So
Okay, so early youth, very active throughout high school, still active doing things in college, still being active at night with most or a lot of 20-year-olds. Like once you get into the workplace, now you don't have as much free time and you're focused on work, and then that kind of goes down. When did it kind of start coming back? Now I'll let you kind of talk about it. I'll kind of pitch in what I remember.
what you remember.
Yeah.
Because what you remember is different than what I remember.
I'm sure, and that's why it's very interesting and fun for me to kind of like have this conversation. It's like, I don't think I've ever even talked to you about like what your fitness was like as a youth.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like
No, we haven't. Not
So-
that I recall.
no. So, okay. So yeah, when do you recall like starting back up again?
I want to say it was after y'all were born, and I stayed at home with y'all for a few years. And I think it was after Ben was born that I got into, I think that's when I got into jazzercise.
Okay.
And I did that for probably definitely wasn't more than 2 years. It was probably a year or so, because I remember taking y'all with me, and y'all would have to be in the little nursery while I did jazzercise.
Okay. Gotcha.
Um,
So that would have been in your late 20s, early 30s.
When were y'all born? Early 30s.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
By the time y'all were toddlers, that I could take you there for babysitting,
Right. Okay.
I would have been in the early 30s. So.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then you were probably 6, no, maybe 5. And that's when behavior and discipline and those kinds of things begin to kick in. And somehow or another, I got the information about martial arts
Right.
as one way to help kids learn discipline. Because I remember, I have no idea how I found the place, but I remember one of the questions they asked was, does the child know this left from his right?
Okay.
Because that matters
Right.
when you're instructing Taekwondo. So I enrolled y'all into Taekwondo to get you a little more discipline. It's not that you were terrible, but you needed a little guidance.
All right. Note to self: my first kid, we're introducing them to martial arts.
Martial arts. Well, it's a level of discipline that's different
Yeah.
than other sports and parenting and that kind of thing.
Right.
It's very ingrained in everything they do. So, and then of course, when I took you, I got interested in it.
Okay.
So probably.
So I actually did it first, and then you started doing
Yes.
it. Okay.
Yeah. I did not go until, I would take you and I would watch, and I got interested in it. So
Okay.
I said, okay, I want to give this a try. So I did that for, I think 8 years.
Yeah.
It was long after y'all stopped.
A significant period of time, because I think I did Taekwondo through either 6th or 7th grade. Maybe 6th grade.
6th grade sounds about right.
Which is what, 10, 11,
It's about 12.
12? Okay, yeah,
Something
12.
like that.
Yeah, so that, yeah.
Because I think I made you
You made me get my black
get
belt.
your black belt. I made you stay for that. Ben got through blue, I think, and then I let him quit. And I got a 2nd degree black
Yeah.
belt. So I was there several years after y'all were would
Okay.
instruct and not only do my own, but I also was instructing.
Okay, so you were actually a Taekwondo instructor.
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now, see, I have no recollection of that.
Do you remember my gi had a red stripe?
Yes.
That's an instructor stripe.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. So my version of that, what I recall, is I do not recall jazzercise at all.
No, you were little.
Yeah, and I do remember Taekwondo pretty vividly.
Mhm.
And I remember going to tournaments and like watching you compete in tournaments a little bit. I remember you doing like I think taking your second degree black belt, not course or whatever.
The testing.
The testing.
Yeah.
I
I think y'all were there.
Yeah.
No, Larry was.
Yeah, and I remember all that. I remember you doing class while Ben and I or myself or whoever was like sitting there watching and like getting yelled at, for
What-
not sitting still or
Oh, yeah.
whatever it would be. I
Was
remember,
I instructing with y'all or?
I don't think you were. I don't ever recall being coached by you.
See,
That's
I don't
the
think
thing.
note to self for you later. Don't ever coach your own children.
No, I want to
in
be.
anything.
I want to be their biggest
work.
fan and not a coach.
Yeah, they don't. They'll be terrible for you. Y'all were.
I believe it. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't recall being instructed by you or ever watching you instruct. But I do remember,
Probably wouldn't have.
I do remember your gi. Was that what it called? A gi?
Mhm.
Yeah, gi with the red stripe and the black belt with the two. And I think they were sewed like gold
They were
stripes,
embroidered. Mhm.
embroidered. Yeah,
Embroidered gold
yeah.
stripes.
Yeah, and I remember that like pretty vividly. Funny story. I remember like going into, oh man, who was the owner?
Gordon Cummings.
Yeah, was it Dr. Cummings or Mr.
No,
Cummings? Yeah,
Mr. Cummings.
Mr. Cummings. I remember going to Mr. Cummings' office and like he had like a little drawer with change in it, and like I was like, oh sweet, like a bunch of quarters, grabbing quarters out of his drawer. And then putting them into the candy machines and like getting candy. And I guess you guys just saw me like going back and forth, getting like handfuls of candy and kind of figured like, what's this kid doing? Like, what's going on? And then just getting like really in big time trouble for
stealing.
Basically stealing, yes.
I don't remember that. Those are the things that you lose. You don't recall because it's for your own protection. When your children are so bad.
That's very true. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I totally remember Taekwondo and that being, yeah, like I think other than just play, my earliest like introduction to any type of organized fitness to a degree.
Yeah.
Or I
We
remember.
all played t-ball.
Yeah, I remember playing sports, but like I was like more like organized fitness type of stuff.
Yeah.
And so then I remember, I stopped playing in like sixth grade because around that time, like other sports were kind of like taking over,
Mm-hmm.
baseball, basketball, hockey, I remember. And so,
Well, you probably ended when you got your black belt, and I said, okay, you don't have to go back.
yeah, because it was very time intensive. I remember
Yes,
being like
it's extremely time
multiple days a
Mhm.
week. And then it was making it so I couldn't do other stuff basically.
Yeah, because there's no season to it. It's year round,
Right.
all the time. It's not like baseball, sports, team sports where there are seasons to it. You're on all the time.
Right. So, okay, then around what time did you stop doing it?
I think I stopped. I want to say I got my second degree not too long after I started back to work full time.
Okay.
That seems right. I'd have to look at the dates, and I think I did not give it up until I got my second degree because I wanted to finish that, but I could not do at that high level. You can't do that and work full time.
Yeah.
I don't think you can't keep it up. So and you can't instruct.
Yeah.
So I think I made that milestone and said, okay, I put that notch in my belt. Now I got to go to work.
Okay.
So, y'all were, I think y'all were in kindergarten and first grade when I went back to work full time.
Okay.
Maybe, something like
Was
that.
it that big a gap between you stopping and us stopping?
Probably at least 2 or 3 years.
But you
least
stopped.
2
You
years.
stopped first, and then we stopped.
No, y'all stopped first.
What's that? We stopped in I stopped in 6th grade, so or 5th or 6th grade. It was definitely middle school. And
Maybe.
yeah, okay. Anyways, so went back to work, stopped doing taekwondo. Did you do anything after that?
Seems like the next thing I did was I went back. Let's see. I think I went back to jazzercise at some point, but it was several years later.
So there was
I think.
there was a gap there between like where you weren't necessarily doing any type of like
Yeah.
focused fitness.
Right.
Do you recall like how that impacted you at all?
No, I was too busy
r-
working and dealing with you people. And so much of what you do as a parent at that age is drive people around
Yeah,
and go to their events.
Yeah.
So there's not any time for your events.
right.
I think I want to say I took golf lessons and did that a little bit. That takes way too much time.
Okay. Yeah, so kind of what I remember about that whole period of time, which is I remember being a very active family in the sense that like we were always going from sports to this thing to that
Your
thing.
sports.
Our sports, right? I remember Dad playing softball growing up, and then I remember him doing.
Yeah.
I remember doing softball, doing taekwondo with you. I remember getting into hockey and like Dad playing hockey with us, and then playing on Dad's hockey team for a little bit. And then it kind of seemed like 7th and 8th grade was like primarily hockey and baseball. And then I remember we would go and do things as a family a lot. I remember going on a bunch of camping trips and going and doing like scouting trips. I remember doing the Ocoee, I think, and hiking. And I remember
That was all scouting. So I probably wasn't there.
no, well, I'm pretty sure like you did the Ocoee with us. I remember you went to Yellowstone with us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So like
that was a scouting thing, but I went along.
I remember us going and like skiing together as a family.
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
kind of doing
Oh,
all
yeah.
that. So
we
like
did that.
being very active. Like I don't recall spending a ton of time watching TV or sitting inside a lot as a family. I remember like being outside playing a lot or going and doing things a lot.
Yeah, we did what every American family does is Saturday morning cartoons. But back then, that's the only time they were on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we weren't very much TV watchers, not compared to the way I think a lot of people are.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So I
were
recall
outdoor
being
people.
active and being like exposed to a lot of activity, not necessarily working out.
No, it was activity.
Yeah. And in 7th grade, I remember, or maybe a little bit before that, I remember there was like a 1970s set of weights that were upstairs, and I think I remember like I'm pretty sure they were like 20 pounds, but like I couldn't do it. I remember Dad doing a curl with them and being like, "Whoa, he's the strongest man alive." And just being like blown away that he could like do a curl, pick up that. It was like the cement weight set, or like that a 10-pound plate's like this big.
Oh yeah,
It's filled with cement. And I think it was red. But I just remember like him putting the two big 10 pounds on each side, like doing a curl. Like,
doing a
whoa,
curl.
that's super
Okay.
strong.
Yeah. Well, you were 7th grade, so you hadn't even.
Right. And I don't think it was before that. I think I was in like 5th or 6th grade and started to do it. Then in 7th grade, I started getting like interested in
that's
doing
right,
it.
Yeah.
Then I remember y'all purchased the first weight set, and then Dad giving me a weight training book from the 50's. And then
That was probably his dad's.
yes,
It
and
came out of the basement from
yes,
Grandpa's house.
and then like just doing the exercises that were in the book, and like with no rhyme or just every day, just doing those. And then I remember the weight set. It was like a pull down machine and a bench like this, and I
remember the bench. Yeah.
I broke the weld. And like I broke the weld and it like fell down, and I remember being like, "Oh crap!"
Is that when I remember running up the steps
That was
thinking you had killed yourself.
that was on a second time, and I'll tell you about that. So I remember going to Dad and going like, "Dad, I broke the weight set," and he was like, "That's awesome." So we'll get you another one.
Surprised he didn't make you pay for it.
You're right. Yeah. Like, all right, we'll get you another one. You're gonna owe me 2,000 hours of yard work. But yeah. He goes. He was like, "Oh really?" oh, that's awesome. Okay, like we'll get you another weight set, and then getting another weight set. And the thing I recall with that was like I was bench pressing without a spotter, couldn't do any more reps, and like I was like, uh-oh, and it started coming down, and like I remember going like on my chin and being like, oh, what am I gonna do? And then I didn't put the collars on each side, and I just and then you came running upstairs and you were like, what is going on? And I was like, well, I'm okay. Yeah, I recall that very much.
No collars, no spotter. You broke all the rules. Because I think we were in I want to say I was either in the laundry room or the garage, which is directly under
Yeah, where that
room was.
Yeah.
And so it sounded like
The entire
the
roof
whole
falling.
Yes, and something is not right.
Yes.
And I bolted up the steps.
Yeah. Well, it scared the crap out of me.
Good.
Yeah, to the point where I was like, and unfortunately, it wasn't like I was like, oh man, that was close. I should bench with a spotter from here on out. It was more like, okay, so the next time I do this,
Put the collars on.
No, I probably need to make sure I don't use the collars, and then just strategize how to like dump this off every time, and like I set up safety pins or something to like, so I could dump it. Because I remember being like, oh, okay, from here on out, I'll just bring it to my chest, and I'll just dump it off my chest every time. Like, that we could take this podcast into like a really bad spot where I tell you all the things I did from a training standpoint that you don't want to know about.
No, there's some things that ignorance is bliss when it comes to parents. You just don't want to know. You'll find that out.
I believe.
And there's nothing dumber than a
8th grader,
8th grade boy.
Okay, so yeah, that's kind of what I remember about growing up in middle school and high school, and I don't recall you really doing any training when I was in high school.
It would have only been maybe some jazzercise.
Okay.
As far as I remember.
Okay. Then I went to college, and of course I was in college, so I
Yeah.
don't know what was going on. Came back, and then I think you were doing jazzercise pretty regularly at that point.
Mhm.
So, so kind of when I was in middle school, so I've been your 40s-ish, probably.
I can't do math.
Okay.
Not without a calculator.
Let's say late
Even that's what I do for a living.
late 30s, 40s, and then 50s would have been when I was in college and in my 20s.
Yeah.
So during that period, you kind of picked back up jazzercise and kind of like started going a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so, okay, I kind of gave my, what I remembered about you kind of starting training with me. Like, what do you remember about all that?
I don't remember the shoulder issue. I do remember feeling like I wanted to see what it was about that you were doing.
Okay.
I was curious to see what it was you did. I want to say you were probably making fun of me.
That is 100% accurate, I believe.
Pretty sure about that, which that wasn't going to do. So I think I wanted to see what you were doing that could make you stop making fun
Okay.
of me.
So there's more just of a so like I remember I think I was making fun of you because of the weights. Like I was like jazzercise
That
is
sounds
not
familiar.
I was like jazzercise is not fitness or something like that is probably
No,
what
I'm
I
sure
said.
it was abusive, whatever it was.
And I do specifically remember you telling me you used the heaviest weights. And I was like, well, how heavy are the heaviest weights? You were like
7-pound
sevens.
weights
I was like,
that are right sitting up in this gym right now are my 7-pound weights. Thank you very much.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
There's
green ones?
Those green ones.
That's awesome. I
You owe
didn't
me
know
for
that. That's perfect.
Pretty sure they're mine.
Okay, so then you started training with me in the group more out of curiosity.
Yes.
Kind of like what I was doing, what I was into, and all that.
See what it was all about.
Yeah.
Because you had started personal training at the Germantown Center.
Mm-hmm.
You had by then I think a pretty good clientele.
Yeah.
Built up there.
Mm-hmm.
It was close by. I remember saying it was just one-on-one training, and I said, I want to do it early so I can go into work early. You said, well, I'll go we'll do 5:15. I'm going to hate it, but I'll do it. So we did 5:15 for a while.
And then you joined the group.
The group was, were they at 6?
They were
something like that.
I think they were like Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6.
Okay.
And I think you were either like Tuesday, Thursday at 5:15 or something. You eventually joined them.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds right. Because I remember it wasn't too long before I switched over to the group. I do remember I couldn't bench press the bar. I guess that was a 45 bar.
Oh, okay.
I remember struggling with it. And they had those
I don't remember that.
little aluminum, I guess they're aluminum bars that are probably 15-pounders
Mm-hmm.
that we would do. It was probably overhead press or something like that.
Yeah.
We had to pop down to that, for me to be able to lift it. I remember, let's see, I was really excited about deadlift, and I can't remember how much it was. It's probably when I got over 100 or something.
I'd say probably like 95 or 100.
Something
like
that.
when you got to use like the actual bumper plates at some point or something.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Okay.
I think I remember the group. I remember all the people.
Yeah.
And that it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun to, it was fun because what you were training was not what the other trainers were training, like tire flipping and stuff like that,
Right.
and sled pulls. And it seemed like the other people in the gym were watching, like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
I'm watching Fox News and on the treadmill, and those people are flipping tires.
Yeah.
Pushing trucks.
Yeah.
We pushed a car.
Yeah.
I remember duck walking up and down the hall.
Oh, shit. I made y'all
It
do
was
that.
hard. You did.
Oh, man.
Well, another part I remember later on was when we ended up for a short period of time in
Crescent Center.
the Crescent Center, and you made Jeff and me run the steps up to the 9th floor.
Yeah.
And we opened the door, and we were like in the kitchen or something up in the Crescent Club. I'm like, it's probably, I think we were going to ride the elevator down and run back down.
Oh, man. Yeah. So, kind of over your history, you've kind of, dabbled a little bit. You kind of like did this for a little while, then did this for a little while, and then did this for a little while. And this is something you've stuck with. Maybe not the style of training, because we've changed the style up a little bit, but like you stuck with the kind of the core weightlifting is like in fitness development versus bouncing from this thing to that thing. So what do you think? What do you think's kind of changed? Like, why is this something you kind of like stuck with and solidified?
No, I really haven't thought about it. I mean, a lot of it's that it's here and it's you, but probably the biggest factor was my training partners, working with other people, which I really like.
Yeah.
I had Jeff for a long time partner. I don't remember how many years I had him.
I mean,
we were together a long time.
Germantown Center plus 5, so
yeah, something like that.
Six,
probably
7 years.
So having that consistent partner helps a lot. But I do enjoy having the different people. You feed off of each other much better. The other things were more individual to me, and I like individual sports. Taekwondo was more of a community.
Mm-hmm.
It's the closest thing to being more of a community than any of the other things I did.
Yeah,
which may be why I did it longer. And it was the way you progress in Taekwondo always gives you a goal ahead.
Right.
So that makes a difference. Where there's because I didn't do team sports and that kinds of things, there wasn't really a goal to work toward.
Right.
It was just fun. I liked I think one of the things that helps feed me and has fed me through it has been chasing the goal, the next thing. You know, you've said it before, if you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want a glass of milk.
Yeah.
You know, if you hit this, you miss this weight this time, keep going for it. Finally, you hit it, and that's a great feeling. That's really hard to duplicate. and it's very measured. Obviously, if I deadlifted 260, and then the next time I get 270, that's pretty darn measurable.
Yeah, right. It's very objective. And
Very
you can see it, feel it, like you know you're making progress.
Yeah, and you get people cheering you on. The look of my physique is noticeably better.
Yeah.
And that sounds kind of like I'm patting myself on the back, but I like seeing my biceps.
Well, yeah, you look good, feel good.
Yeah.
Builds your confidence, makes you.
All my life, that my chest, you could see bones across my chest. You can't see those bones anymore.
Yeah.
Because there's no fat up there and there's no boobs up there, so it's all bones. So, but now there's muscle on top of that, so it's just a more attractive look to me.
Yeah.
I wear the same size clothes I've always worn.
Yeah.
I've never, other than being pregnant, same size as when I got married.
Wow, that's awesome.
So, but I guess what we've done, the kinds of workouts we've done have morphed and changed, and they're never the same. They progress, try different things, do different things. So I like that. It keeps it fresh all the time, and it keeps it from being
monotonous.
Monotonous. We don't get in a rut as much.
Well, I was going to say, I think one of the things I think is unique about you, and I can definitely see this more now, having been doing this over a decade, is you have been incredibly consistent. And I'd like to talk about that, but first I kind of want to talk about what for a lot of people that just walk in now, like they say, oh, Madre, and like, oh man, Madre's strong. To see your name on the board or whatever it would be, and it's interesting to me to go back and kind of go, oh, there was a period of time where you couldn't bench press the bar, or like you couldn't deadlift 100 pounds, and like right now your best deadlift is what,
I think it's 265. I can't remember if I got it at 270 or if I had a miss at 270.
Okay, and that's a body weight of around what?
Double.
Yeah, double body weight, deadlift. And how old are you?
64.
Yeah, right. So double body weight deadlift at 64 years old. What's your best bench press?
110.
Okay, so almost doubled your bench press from below 45, or over doubled your bench press from not able to do 45 to be able to do 110. What's your best squat?
185.
You didn't do 200 in reps like in a meet?
No.
Okay, so 185. And how many powerlifting meets have you done?
Maybe 5 or 6.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right.
Something in that range. And, that's something I thought about a minute ago, that obviously when I get up in a meet and I'm just a hair older than anybody else there.
Right.
I've gotten lots of positive feedback from particularly other women in the bathroom or wherever.
Yeah.
Just more, people saying, that's awesome. I really, it's really neat to see you there, which I took it to mean that I'm an older female.
We don't see too many of you old folks up in here.
Yeah. Well, and I've told people too, I said, how you win the meet is you outlive everybody else.
Yeah, not outlive, you just outlive.
Yeah, that's right.
It's guaranteed to
show up and outlive everybody.
That's right. Well, yeah, what got me thinking is just like you've been doing this probably about 13 years now. And you've just been exposed to a lot of different things. So we've done kind of just general fitness training. We've done specific powerlifting training. I've exposed you guys like sprint training before, and you've competed in powerlifting meets. We've gotten ready and done endurance races, obstacle courses. Did you do the CrossFit competition last year? Have you done it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've done
The
CrossFit.
Open?
Not the Open, but no, the one we put on.
I think so.
Yeah, I think you did. You've competed in CrossFit, and so like you've been exposed and done like so many things over these years, and you can see the progress that you've been able to make. And I think for a lot of people, it's hard for them to kind of project out like where I'll be in 10 years because it's just like where I am right now, and oh man, like I'm not going to reach this level. And it's hard, and so sometimes they'll kind of look at you and go like, man, like Madre is like up here, and I just want to be like Madre one day. And I think it'd be cool for them to kind of hear like, well, I had a first week of training too.
Oh, it sucked. Yeah.
I had a first week of training. There was a time where I couldn't deadlift, 100 pounds. But I just had to stick with it. And over those years, I've been able to kind of build up. So I think it'll be cool for people to kind of hear, like Madre, even though you've been kind of like a fixture of this facility since the beginning, because you've been here before we even opened, that there was a first day for you.
Oh, yeah.
And you've had those struggles and felt those same things and kind of just been consistent and stuck with it over the years. And so that's kind of what I talk about. It's kind of like the consistency. You definitely have been in attendance and been to the gym more days at NBS Fitness than any other person that's ever been here. And we've had some people who are very serious weightlifters. What I kind of tend to see is there's usually about a 3-year timeline for most competitive lifters, whether that be strongman, powerlifting, bodybuilding. Typically, they'll kind of be introduced to it. They're like, this is amazing. They'll kind of pour everything into it. They'll get after it. They'll have their first meet. This is what I do forever. And they'll kind of go up. And after about 3 years, they'll kind of fall off.
Yeah. And
they'll kind of just stop working out. Or on the other side, for a lot of people who are struggling to kind of or want to be fit and kind of introduce it for the first time or kind of on and off, we typically see that struggle point after about 3 months. It's very difficult for people to kind of like continue after 3 months. Usually within a 3-month period, something's going to happen in their life that's going to be kind of a curveball that's going to be a challenge for them, and they either get through it and they continue on, or they let that kind of knock them off the wagon. So what are some things, or some advice that you could give to people that has helped you be consistent, whether that be like mindset or some specific routines that you have? Like, what has helped you be so consistent and basically train 5 days a week, every week, except when you're on vacation or sick?
I'm never sick.
Right, and you don't ever get sick, and that's been that way for 13 years. So you're 5 days a week, 13 years.
Might have skipped because I was sick probably can count less than one hand.
Yeah. I can recall times that you've missed workouts, like definitely that were non-vacation related. In less than,
usually I'm going to work.
Less than two hands.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would a couple of things with being consistent. That some of that is just part of the kind of person I am. If I commit to something, especially if I say it, I will do it.
Yeah.
If I pay for it, I will do it. And I've always paid you exactly like I pay everybody else.
Yep.
It's not free. Part of that is a self-induced reason to show up.
Accountability. I'm putting money towards this, so I better do it.
Yeah, exactly. So and that's why I've always told you, I pay what everybody else pays, because that's my buy-in, literally. But I've always been a kind of a person who is pretty methodical and consistent. I think some of it may be really chalked up to timing in my life, because I started after my children were didn't need day-to-day care anymore. I had a job that the hours were consistent.
Yep.
I didn't have some of the life issues that get in the way of other things.
Yeah.
Other, family care or elder care, that kind of thing. I think a big thing for me being consistent is I always do it first thing in the morning. It's first thing, nothing else gets in the way, because after work hours, that's when there's meetings, somebody wants to go out to dinner or whatever. Nobody's going to do that at 6 a.m.
You're right. Yeah.
So you don't have to interrupt what you're doing at work or at home or whatever to come in to the gym.
Yeah, there's no potentials for things to pop up. You have control of the first hour of your day.
Yeah, exactly. And doing it first thing in the morning, you haven't, your hair is a mess and nobody cares if your makeup's on. You're going to do all that later.
Yeah.
Staying with it, because it's morphed and changed and been interesting, and I've had partners whose company I just plain old enjoy.
Yeah.
I don't know of any partner we've ever worked out with that I didn't enjoy just hanging out with them.
Yeah. Being around.
Being around. It's just fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to see them progress. It's fun to razz each other.
Yeah.
Encourage each other, positively or negatively, whatever it takes.
That's kind of one thing I kind of tell people is like, the things that happen at the gym don't ever happen anywhere else in real life. You can't talk shit to someone at work without without hurting their feelings or getting in trouble. And likewise, at work, there's not a bunch of people giving you high fives and going like, man, that was awesome. So proud of you. Like, let's take a picture of that. Let's highlight that.
Yeah.
It never happens in work. There's none of that. And so like,
you don't even get a golf clap.
Yeah. So it's like, I think people like tend to forget what it's like to be told good job, or be told like, hey, suck it up and do better. You're being a lazy ass.
Well, and it is motivating.
Yeah.
It is motivating when you know what that feels like to be motivated by that kind of interaction. Then you can, you want to encourage other people in the same way. I remember when we went to Israel a couple of years ago, and I went to the weight room, and I said, trash talk is the same in Arabic or whatever they were speaking as it is in English. You just hear it.
Yeah.
You know it when you hear it. They're trash talking each other.
That's awesome. Go ahead.
Well, the variety in what we've done, being able to see pretty consistent and steady progress.
Yeah.
That keeps you going. And I think something that when you've done it consistently enough and long enough, you run into those days where it just ain't happening that day.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get under your skin too much. I remember, especially at the meets, that I remember worrying, what if I missed the lift? Well, then I watched everybody say, everybody misses their lift. I mean, that's kind of the whole point. Because if you don't miss it, then you may be undershot it. So that you wouldn't feel self-conscious about missing a lift. So you're better able to weather a day when everything's firing right and it works, and days when it doesn't, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to win a car here today. It's just something for you to chalk and say, yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
I remember it was deadlift, and I got stuck at, I think I got stuck at 205 pounds. And I would, it took me several months, because that gets in your head. In deadlift it does. And I finally got over that lift, and it was kind of like, oh, finally got past that.
Yeah, and then 60 more pounds later.
That was stopping me.
Yeah.
And that feeling that success, that goes a long way.
Yeah.
To keep you coming.
Yeah, I think I'm in 25th year or something like that of training. Like myself being exercising. And one of the things I tell people is like, well, I have a couple of jokes. I'll say, well, how many years does it take to look like you've been training for 10 years? Or like, you know,
10.
Yeah,
20.
exactly. Right, 10. But I said, like, you know, there's just some things that I can tell you that you're just not going to appreciate till you've been doing it for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the reality behind it. You know, if
Yeah.
you've been doing it as long as I have, like, you just have a better understanding. And some of that is weathering the storm a little bit and understanding that there's going to be highs and there's going to be lows, and to not let your highs, you know, get you too high, your lows get you too low, because the most important thing is to just keep doing it regardless.
Yeah.
And understand you're going to have good days and bad days. And either way, it's still a day that you trained and got better.
Yeah. And I like y'all's analogy of the dimmer switch. When you don't ever turn the light off, you just dim it up or down. Particularly, I think I've known a lot of people that an injury has stopped them.
Yeah.
Rather than working through the injury and working around it, modifying, they just give it up and say, well, I just can't do that, so I don't really do anything.
Yeah. It's like the all or nothing approach is going to either lead to all, but it's usually going to lead to nothing.
Oh, yeah.
That's the way it works.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of times I find that to be more of a justification. It's either justification of their fear, like injuries hurt and pain's bad and we don't want to feel that again. So like we justify it. Our fear justifies like us, I don't want to risk it at all. Instead of saying like, I know I can still do stuff, or they're already struggling mentally with like the aspect of training. And it's just like, oh, this doctor's orders, can't do this anymore.
Oh, yeah. I've got my prescription to not do it ever again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, some life event may happen, may probably nothing to do with injury, but something happens, and then that habit gets
thrown off track.
Kind
Yep.
of like going to church.
Yep.
You miss church a couple of 3 weeks in a row, and then all of a sudden, you know,
it's easier to sit in.
Months.
It's easier to sleep in than it is to go back to church. So it's easier to not go to the gym than it is to go to the gym.
Yeah. You know, I have people all the time, especially they've known me a long time, they go, you still go to the gym 5 days a week? Yeah, do you brush your teeth twice a day? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Because there's more in the plus column than there is the minus column.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, 100%. I can get that. Well, let's talk about that. So, what are some of the benefits that you feel that you get, other than, because I think for a lot of people, it's like they think the benefits of exercise are like these kind of surface level benefits, like, oh, you look better.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, yes, or like you feel better, you're healthier, all that kind of stuff. Like those are all great benefits. Don't get me wrong. Like those come with the territory, but I think there's deeper things that are the real kind of root and foundation and are the reasons that I train, other than which. So like, meaning like if the only reason you train is so you look better, I kind of made the joke, like if the only reason for training is to look better, what happens if you have a deformity? What if you're just ugly as sin? You know, you know what you know. If the only reason for training is that, if the only reason for training is performance, is that's like the main thing. What happens if you break your back and can never walk again, or you know,
performance like COVID comes along and you can't go to a meet?
Yeah, yeah. You know, if it's only for social attention, what happens if you lose that? Like, if it's only for health, if you only exercise because, well, it makes me feel good, like, well, what if something happens in your life that makes you feel bad? You don't exercise. So, I mean, I think there's like, those are great things that come with the territory, but like, I think there's kind of deeper things. So what are some of the things that the benefits you've felt or seen or experienced over these last 13 years outside of those that kind of motivate you to keep doing it?
I think one thing, and it's an important thing, it kind of goes back to pushing your boundaries past what you thought you could do. So, like with my deadlift that stuck at 205 or whatever it was, when you break that boundary, push that edge and keep pushing it, and you go past it and you conquer it. You know, that's a great feeling. And so many people have a very limited comfort zone of what they're willing to push to the edge.
Yeah.
And doing it in the gym has transferred into other areas. Do something that you're, I've spoken in public before, but that kind of thing. If speaking in public would be terrifying, doing something else that encourages you and rewards you for pushing the edge will help you do other things such as public speaking that push you past that comfort zone.
Yeah.
We like our comfort zone, but pushing past it, not only it just helps you realize that there are things you can do that you don't think you can.
Right.
And I think that's a big one. Feeling comfortable enough with yourself to you can do something really hard and survive it.
Yeah.
Even if you may not be successful with it the first time, it didn't kill you.
Yeah.
Which is what Angie tells me all the time. Well, you're still alive, aren't you?
Did you die?
No.
No.
Okay, well then keep going. But just getting outside of what you might limit yourself with and having successes with that and having failures with it later on may end up being successes.
Yeah.
Another thing that Yoshimi and I, my former partner Yoshimi, who's just a hair younger than I am, have talked about was there's a feeling, being an older female may have something to do with it, but I attribute a significant amount of it to being consistent in the gym or working out, is a feeling of well-being, an overall feeling of well-being. That's hard to define. It's like being comfortable in your own skin, maybe.
Yeah.
Comfortable that you can do something hard.
Yeah.
And comfortable doing something, if you do something in the gym that's really stupid and people laugh along with you when you do it and you do it anyway or whatever, it just helps you get that feeling of support and well-being that you're not going to get it at work.
Yeah.
You'll get it at home. But it's a very difficult thing to explain, but it's very noticeable.
Yeah.
And she and I both talked about it and noticed it. I think she's 5 or 6 years younger than me. That we both said being real consistent in our workouts and accomplishing something in the workout or progressing with the workout has made a big difference with that. Yeah. Something that it's noticeable to us. I don't know that if it's noticeable to others.
Well,
confidence maybe.
Yeah, we do know. I mean, so obviously there is a psychological impact of doing hard things, getting through it on the other side, of building yourself up in an area, doing things you didn't think you could previously thought you could do. But there's also like a physiological change. Like there are certain hormones that are produced that when you exercise that give you a sense of calm and a sense of that work well, and in some cases even better than like anti-anxiety drugs. And so it's
I think they work in a similar manner.
Yes. And so if the opposite of like calm or confidence, the opposite of calm is anxiousness, it helps give you that sense of like calmness, well-being. And that's both physiological, like I just feel good, and also psychological.
Oh yeah. I would agree. And a lot of that does come from accomplishment, and you have a lot more opportunities here to test your boundaries in a consistent way all the time, and a way to progress onto the next level that's gives that very positive and immediate feedback.
Yeah.
That feedback loop that keeps you going, and keeps you interested in it, but also keeps you with that, keeps that feeling of well-being and confidence going.
Yeah.
So that's, to me, that's irreplaceable. And I think when I look around at my cohorts in crime, some of my friends that are my age or close to my age, and I see that they're encountering health issues, gaining weight, a lot of them, aging the way the most of the Western or the U.S. and Western population ages. And I think that, you've got a choice there.
Yeah.
You got a choice. You can, and you're never too old, because you hear a lot of that. Well, it's too late for me to start that now. It's going, no.
Well, Lenny didn't start till he was in his 90s.
I was going to say, we got a couple of guys
or whatever it was.
that were older.
Yeah.
It's never too late. You have to. It's getting over, to me, is get them in the gym or anywhere.
Okay, so that's going to be my next question. It's like, okay, 64-year-old women who exercise 5 days a week, who have healthy body fats, who are strong, who are in good shape, who don't take a bunch of medications and aren't dealing with a bunch of issues, don't exist.
Yeah, they do. I'm right here.
Well, so they don't exist, but in very few instances.
Yeah.
In other words, the vast majority of people in your age group are incredibly unhealthy.
Oh yeah.
What do you feel is like the biggest thing keeping them from taking that action? Because you and I know, and I would even say that most of them know that like the best version of their lives would be a healthy and fit one. That if they were fit or healthy, like they would feel so much better. They'd be able to experience so many more things. They wouldn't deal with these health issues. They would have that confidence and that well-being. Like, and I do think in some instances it is an idea of like, or it is a just lack of knowledge, but for most people in the United States, they know that they would feel better and be better if they were fit. So what is that sticking point that's keeping them from taking some type of action?
A couple of things that come to mind to me would be, I think there'd be a fear of embarrassment that they would come in and quote, make a fool of themselves in the gym because they were clumsy or they couldn't do what everybody else was doing. I think the biggest factor where the friction is habit. Mm-hmm. I eat the same thing for breakfast every day.
Yeah.
I like my cereal. I don't want to do anything else. I wake up at this time every day. I don't want to get up early.
Yeah.
I like coming home after work and watching TV. And I don't know how to crack that.
Yeah.
That's the hardest one to crack to me, is to change the habit.
Yeah.
And then establish a new habit.
Right.
Like I said before, I am a person of habit, and changing that is really, really difficult for anybody.
Yeah.
We've seen folks that have, I think when they've come in and tried it out a little bit, it probably appeared that the learning curve was insurmountable.
Yeah.
And I think y'all do a good job with that on ramp, where you ease somebody into a class, because it would be real easy to walk into a class and go, I'll never be able to do that.
Yeah.
Not realizing that everybody else in there has been doing it 10 years and we still screw it up.
Yeah. Or they've gone through the Kickstarter too, and now they're 6 months down the road.
Yeah. And not to give up too early.
Yeah.
I think that probably is a big point of friction.
Yeah.
And for women particularly, men kind of don't care.
Yeah.
But women more tend to look around and go, oh, well, I'll never be able to do that. I know when the few times I've gone to other gyms when I've been on vacation, I'm kind of embarrassed to go in and I don't know anybody, I don't know what I'm doing. Time or two, though, I went in and there was another lady my age.
Yeah.
And we immediately
You're like,
found each other like, oh, look.
You're one of me.
And I could lift more than she could. So I was like,
Probably broke her heart. Like walked out like I was the strong old lady here. Dadgummit.
Well, if you're 64 and you walk into a gym where everybody else is in their 20s and 30s, it feels a little different.
Yeah.
And they got their booty shorts on, and
Yeah.
you got the flab hanging over the top of your gym shorts. Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's my goal has been to help people build fitness over a lifetime. The idea of like, I want you to start and then never stop. So whether that's starting in your teens, ideally it would be starting from the time you're born, but let's say it's in your teens or your 20s, your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever it is, whenever you walk in, I want you to start and I want you to just keep doing it.
Yeah.
And instead of getting out of the idea of like, we're going to do this for just for 6 months, or like what I hear, like, I'm going to lose 20 pounds and I'll be good. I'm like, good for what? Like,
yeah.
Like, you could stop. Like, that's not an option, right? And at every kind of age group or demographic, there's a different kind of struggle. So obviously 20-year-olds have a different struggle than 30-year-olds. I mean, when you're in 30s and you have kids, it's hard as crap to find the time. When you're in 40s and you're putting your kids,
you're driving kids.
You're driving kids, like you don't have the time. And in the 50s and 60s, a lot of times you kind of like more solidified, or your body, like the idea of exercising to you, it sounds unattractive. He's like, my body feels like crap. I don't want to go and like be sore all the time. It already hurts. Imagine what it would feel like if I exercised. And helping people kind of get over those different struggles so that it can be something that they do forever and reap the benefits of it forever. So what would be some advice that you may kind of tell people across kind of their lifetime and say like, okay, hey, I've been through each one of those points. You've been through the point where you're like, yeah, I had kids and I was driving around all the time and I struggled to kind of get it done. Like, what was some advice you'd give kind of to people across the spectrum of their life to encourage them to make it happen?
Well, something I was thinking about a minute ago was, I think some people have the misconception, particularly at a gym and particularly at a CrossFit facility, that they're going to walk in and everybody's going to look like those people that are at the games.
Right.
And if you walk into a gym or a CrossFit facility, you notice very quickly nobody looks like that.
Yeah.
Nobody. So the vast majority we got every size, weight, shape, age, everything. So whatever you're seeing either on TV or social media as what gym people look like, they don't really look like that.
Right.
They don't perform like that. So don't think you're going to be the odd person out. And we all know, from whether it's saving money or creating good nutrition and diet, that the earlier you establish habit, it becomes a habit. It becomes so ingrained. It is like brushing your teeth. You don't think about it. You just do it every night, and that's the way it is.
Yeah.
And not doing it feels funky. So notice that a lot with nutrition. If you have been doing pretty well and then you go off on the hamburger, French fry, and Dr. Pepper binge, it tastes funky in your mouth.
Yeah.
You taste the fat, you can taste the sugar, you
This
feel it
makes
the
me
next
feel
day.
terrible.
Makes you feel bad.
Yeah.
So, you know, establishing those habits early is going to help the most. But what is it? The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. What's the next best time today?
Yeah.
There's no reason to not try it or start it at any time. I think this perspective comes with a little age under your belt, is realizing you're going to have, and this is true in life and marriage and relationships and the gym and everything else, you're going to have times when it's humming along and it's all pretty easy, it falls into place, and the times that it doesn't. It doesn't mean you stop. It just means you grind on through that. It's that wave is going to go again. That, you know, hang out through those times and don't give up.
You'd be stronger for it on the other side.
On the other side. And if you're doing that in one part of your life, you're probably more likely to do it in multiple parts of your life. If you're married and or in a relationship or at work and you throw it out too easy, the what we call the beer can generation, curl up the beer can, throw it in the back of the truck, and go on.
Yeah.
Don't give up so easy.
Yeah.
So that'll translate in other parts of your life. That your perspective on what life looks like is going to change, and it's almost by decade.
Yeah.
What is important at 20 is going to look different at 30, is going to look different at 40 and 50 and 60. So keeping that flexibility in mind, that your perspective is going to be a little different. Keep pushing that boundary all the time. I thought about how many times or how many people do you know that do any activity, fitness, that you're so exhausted you fall out on the floor, which is what we do. I did it today.
Yeah.
You know, almost every day in CrossFit, we all fall out on the floor. Nobody does that.
No.
That you have exerted yourself to the point where you got to just fall out. After having done it a while, you realize 2-3 minutes later, you're right back up where you were.
Yeah.
You know, but that's only because I've done it 5 days a week for 13 years that I can get up after 5 minutes or 2 minutes and be recovered. And that's at 64. So I do think my perspective will look a little different another 10 years down the road, because there's going to be a point at my age where the curve's going to turn back down.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, I'm not going to be able to increase my deadlift
right.
indefinitely.
Yeah. Right.
At some point, I'll be happy to get that 205 back again.
Right.
So I don't know if that answers the question or not, but
no, that's perfect.
It's kind of rambling.
No, that's perfect. I think that's good perspective for people, because because sometimes we tend to just kind of zone in on today, you know, and just get through the day, and we don't have that perspective of like, okay, well, am I doing things today that are going to be good for me 10, 20, 30 years down the road? So
and getting those habits ingrained so they are truly muscle memory, second nature.
Yeah.
Like a savings.
I have something I'll tell people. I'll tell my trainers this. I'll say, okay, think of how you operate from a fitness perspective and a nutrition and working out perspective. And if I asked you to change that, stop exercising, start eating bad food, how difficult that would be for you, because that is how you operate. That's your habits. That's just with the idea of switching that is, you're like, oh, that would be impossible, right? That's the same thing. A lot of people struggle with, to go back the other way, to start training, right? So yeah, once those habits are ingrained, they're more difficult to turn around.
Mm-hmm.
So as hard as it may seem today, it's not going to be easier in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
If you're waiting until, as soon as this happens, then I'll be able to do it. It's like, well, you'll always be waiting. You'll never take any action.
Yeah. And you were talking too about how exercise affects your hormones and the physiology in your body, the nerve synapses that fire and all that kind of thing. If that's what you're accustomed to and have built up, and that stops either abruptly or wanes, you're bound to feel depression.
Oh yeah.
I would think.
Yeah.
Because you're accustomed to
you're accustomed
those chemical
to those
levels
endorphins hitting your receptors on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And so if you take sometimes if you take a week off for vacation or something, like that first couple of days, this is amazing. And then after several days of kind of not exercising, you're like, I kind of feel crappy.
Yeah. I
feel like I need to do something. I feel like I'm in sludge. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If you're sleeping in a couple of days and eating some bad food and not moving, you're like, I don't feel good.
Yeah. And it's hard to, if you've never felt good.
You don't know. You don't know what the other perspective is.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, again, that goes back to like, how do you get people to appreciate what feeling good is if they've never felt it?
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I had mentioned. If you've had a relatively clean diet and then you binge off on that day, that's when you realize how bad that stuff is.
Right, this feels terrible.
That feels terrible.
And that's how people feel all day, every day for their entire lives.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks. Well, very cool, Maj. I think that's something great to kind of end on. Keep up the great work. We love having you here, and hopefully some people will be inspired by kind of your story and some of your words of encouragement.
That would be wonderful.
All right, NBS Fitness Radio, out.
Thank you for listening to NBS Fitness Radio. If you enjoyed the podcast, be sure to share it with your friends, follow us on social media, and check out our website at www.nbsfitness.net. Hit the subscribe button and tune in next time for more NBS Fitness Radio.